right, ladies and gentlemen, Vertify. Is anybody excited to be here? Let me hear you out there. Come on, is anybody awake and fired up? Let's go.
I'm going to bring some of the, I'm originally from New Orleans, so I'm going to bring some of the New Orleans spice and flavor to this. Here to talk about something that everybody doesn't necessarily think that integration is that sexy. But I think we all know it's critical and a strategic part of any customer platform and customer ecosystem. And so I'm here to represent Vertify, Chief Product Officer. Vertify as a RevOps integration and automation platform. We're partners with a lot of the companies that are here today, including HubSpot, RevPartners. Really excited to be here. And we're going to talk a little bit about where are you along the data management maturity curve, all right? So first off, this is me. Anybody recognize this guy? Anybody? This is me. No, it's not really me. It's not really me. This is really me. However, I've been told at a lot of golf clubs when I wear my Nike stuff that I look like Tiger Woods. I don't know how much truth there is to that. I've been stopped in a couple of restaurants when I don't have my glasses on and I'm wearing Nike. It's pretty close. I'll take his golf game on a bad day. I don't want the rest of his problems though. I think I know a lot more about data management than he probably knows, so I'll take him on that. So anyway, again, my name is Lopez, co-founder, Chief Product Officer at Vertify. I've been in the data space for about 20 plus years, starting to show the gray hairs around it. I really love what I do. I get excited about integration and data management, if you can't tell. But this is something that's kind of really gets me going. And it's just a part of a lot of customer platforms. And I want to get from some of the audience, I want to understand some folks out there, how big some of your organizations are. So I can kind of make this more personal, not personalized, if we remember Yamini's talk, how big your organizations are. So anybody out there, your organization is like 5 to 50 employees. 5 to 50 employees, all right? I got one there. Okay, how many folks do we have that are like 50 to 200 or so employees? Okay. All right, a couple more. 250 to 1,000. Any there? All right, 1,000 on up. So most are kind of in the 0 to 100-ish, 200 range. Okay, cool. This is a perfect segue. Let me talk about how we step through the data management maturity curve around integration. So we see that there's really 4 steps through this. First is where you're siloed, right? Things are not connected, your organization is not connected, the people are not connected, everything is in a silo, right? That's usually where things start, obviously. But then you move along to the adopting stage, where people, processes, technology starts to become less siloed, if you will. Then the unified stage is, wait, we're really getting this together, right? We're really learning. People, processes, technology is starting to come together. And then last is advanced. Like you really figured this out. You're becoming a champion and an expert in terms of data management. And integration is really just a component of that. So let's go back to the siloed stage, because I think, like a lot of things, it's about recognizing where you are. We don't expect a lot of companies to come out when they're started, when they're born, or even if they've been around for a while with this kind of new revolution around revenue operations, to remove the silos. Those things will exist, but it's important to recognize that you do have silos. So being in that not aware stage, right? It's like, oh wait, we need to remove silos. More than just our technology needs to be connected. And sometimes you're not quite aware of that. And that's okay. Oftentimes startups, services companies that are in their early stages, companies as they're just beginning in their infancy, really there's not a lot of maturity yet. But again, the important piece is to start to get some awareness around this. In the 3 areas that are typically impacted: sales, marketing, and also customer success. You're operating in silos. There's no integration, again, between people, process, or technology, and some of the other revenue applications if they exist. Now, this is not a bad thing, but what you want to happen is to start to get some awareness. That's really the first stage. As you start to become aware, you start to look at, how do I adopt best practices? What am I looking for from a technology standpoint? Are there service providers that can help me, right? So that awareness stage, as you're moving out of the not awareness, is really key and important to know and have some self-assessment of yourself in the organization. So when you're aware, sales, marketing, customer success, you're starting to operate as one. You don't have it all figured out, and that's perfectly okay and acceptable. But you're leveraging things like native integrations. HubSpot has a really good set of native integrations, even if you're not using everything within the HubSpot ecosystem, right? Let's say there's some best of breed tools that you're using, like e-commerce, data warehouses, things like that, but HubSpot has natives, and that's usually a good place to start in terms of the technology piece, right? Sometimes there's some gaps, but it's always better to start where it's easiest. But at least recognizing that we have some places for upside, and especially for some of the organizations that are a little bit smaller, where you're 50, 100, 150 employees, starting with the natives is the best place to start. Even as somebody where we deal with small companies, mid-market, and enterprise companies, we're not a good fit. I will tell you that today. We're not a good fit for small companies. We like to tell customers that come to us, and we're transparent and honest, start with the native integration. You'll get a lot of bang for your buck there. But what inevitably starts to happen, even with small organizations, you need to become what's called virtually aligned, right? So you're going from not aware to virtually aligned. Now, that may not represent itself in the actual technology. It may be just the people, like the sales and marketing team are starting to say, hey, we need a better way to work together. It doesn't really need to be the technology itself, but the people need to recognize we need a better way to work together. And so this virtually aligned stage is on its way to becoming more unified. The RevOps team is now maybe a new creation. Now, the good news is a lot of newer organizations, you can kind of start with a RevOps team. Organizations that have been around for a while, maybe 5 or 10 years, right? You're still growing. You may not have a RevOps team that's formal yet, but that's part of this stage, is starting to say, hey, maybe we need this. We have some awareness around this. We need to create virtual alignment, and typically RevOps will help to create that. Usually it's a year old or less when you've created that you're in this stage. You have some processes in place. You're starting to evaluate tools to solve for holistic workflow automation. Now, this is where things like native integrations may not be quite enough, right? You may start to break because things around complexity around data, processes start to get a little bit more sophisticated, and native integrations are really only meant to go so far, right? They're really able to solve some of your base level problems, but as things get more sophisticated with processes, technology, and people, when you start to branch out, right? We're in a remote world now. People are in different places. Even things with native integrations don't always lend themselves to giving you optimal solutions around data management. But that's okay, right? You want to step into it. You don't want to just rush into it. Oftentimes, some of our best customers, they're using a hybrid approach. They're using some native integrations in some parts of the organization, and then they're using best of breed, where they can look at more configurable or customized integrations, right? But you're starting to evolve, and typically a RevOps team will give you some of that flexibility to say, how do we step into this and not just dive into the deep end? This is a situation where I don't agree with diving into the deep end is the best answer, especially for smaller organizations. Now, maturing. The maturing stage is when you have some unification. right? The RevOps team is in place for probably a year or more, whether you're a smaller organization or a larger organization. You're still creating processes to leverage better CRM integrations. This is where, again, natives, it's like, this probably won't cut it. You need better control, tighter control, things like more visibility, transparency in your integration to really mature your data management around your organization. And really, again, there could be things outside of sales, marketing, customer success, obviously, but we're gonna focus on the revenue stack, the rev tech, just because, hey, that's why we're here. That's what's most important, I think, to the HubSpot ecosystem. But typically at this point, all of your systems are integrated, right? Even if it's native, they're all integrated. But you're looking for ways to optimize those integrations, to become more mature with your data management processes. This is a process that doesn't happen overnight. This typically takes a couple of years, and I think it's important to realize, again, it won't happen all at once. I think in this age of instant gratification with a lot of things in life, we all want to just like, hey, I want the best of the best. I want everything to operate optimally and ideally, and that's a false way to do this. It really will set yourself up for disaster later on. So again, we encourage starting off with native integrations and step-toeing your way into more complex things that give you more visibility, more control, tighter control, transparency within your organization, right? Especially around sales, marketing, and customer success. Now, the advanced stage. One of the companies I want to just kind of pinpoint here, has anybody heard of Okta? They're in the cybersecurity identification space. They're a huge enterprise company. They're kind of seen as like the grandfather of RevOps. I mean, they were talking about this stuff 10 years ago, if you can imagine. It's weird because everybody thinks like, oh, RevOps is this new thing, and it's like, not really. It's been around for a while, and companies like Okta, they kind of pioneered this. But the good news is, right, if you're helping to develop your processes, people and technology around better data management and integration, you get to this advanced stage where you're now optimizing these things, right? You're leveraging the tools that will help you have better data management, which leads to things like faster lead management, cross-selling, upselling, right? Because now you're not talking about unidirectional integrations of data management. Now you're talking about moving data into multiple systems where you can leverage some of these things like better lead management, faster lead management, cross-sell, upsell, revenue reporting, better analytics. A lot of these things, when you start to integrate multiple systems, you're in this optimizing stage where you're now, if you look at your maybe colleagues in your space, maybe in your industry, you've surpassed them. And this is where you want to be from a data management standpoint. Now, we've been able to assess that it typically takes about 2 to 3 years to get to this stage. When you're at this stage though, it's constant. You're constantly evolving. It's not like you get there and it's like, okay, we're done. We've optimized everything. No, it's constant. You're constantly moving because the things are changing, right? We heard yesterday at the keynote, change is inevitable. Whether it's the economy, macro things, micro things, there's a lot of change. You want to constantly be evaluating your data management strategy, the people involved, the tools involved. But when you get to this optimized stage, you have an advanced RevOps team that's dedicated to this. They're paying attention to this. And this can even be 2 people. For some of you that mentioned you're in smaller organizations, this doesn't have to be a massive team of 10 to 15 people like in Okta. This can be 2 people. I've seen it done with a lot of organizations before. We're a 15-person organization. We have 2 people on our RevOps team, and we're at this stage. Now, we've been doing it for a while, but we're at this stage. And I love it because the people that we have doing it, they've progressed through the organization in different roles from customer success, implementation. So they have a good purview on what it takes to continually to optimize and be in that advanced stage of data management. So those are the 5 stages: siloed, adopting, unified, and advanced, that typically we see for the data management maturity curve. It's more of a straight line in a curve, but that's okay. For the design folks out there, we still want to make sure that you kind of understand what that process looks like. Just want to mention, Vertify is partners with RevPartners, who's also one of the partners in the Sprocketeer Lounge. RevPartners does a good job in terms of a lot of the process people. We help white label some of their integrations that they do with customers. They are RevOps as a service. They've got it down, very down pat. So a lot of you that are in the 50-person organization, 100-person organization, you'd find that RevPartners is a good fit. And again, they're leveraging our technology to help achieve that data management so that you can have better integrations throughout the revenue ops lifecycle. I want to open it up to see if there's any questions. As you can tell, I get really excited about this stuff. Yes, in the front row.
Can you talk a little bit more about the native integrations that a smaller company should, or if there's like a list of native integrations that you'd recommend for a smaller company to utilize to connect sales, marketing, and customer satisfaction?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you think about it in the HubSpot ecosystem, which literally has probably thousands of native integrations, right? Some are definitely better than others, and it just depends on what things you're trying to solve for. So for instance, if you think about using HubSpot as a marketing automation platform, but there's things like maybe you're in e-commerce, you're a B2C e-commerce. They have a pretty good native integration with Shopify, right? They have a decent native integration with Klaviyo, even with Magento, Adobe Commerce. Those native integrations can get you pretty far as a small organization. Typically, they're limited on the number of what's called objects. So if you think about like the contact record or the company object, things like that, maybe it's 3 to 5 objects. Maybe there's a finite number of fields, but that's all you need usually as a smaller organization. Because if you go outside of that, it just becomes too much to manage. You probably don't have the complexity in your processes yet. But it really does depend on the systems that are in your tech stack as to where you want to leverage the native integrations. As you start to get beyond that is when you start to look and say, okay, do I need something that's a little bit more configurable or customizable? But again, the HubSpot marketplace does a really good job of showing you where they have natives. They also do a good job of showing you integration platforms, even like Vertify, where they can help you with the non-natives or where I need the native to go beyond that. So it really does depend. My information is up here. Please reach out. Tell me about your tech stack so that I can probably help you think about, okay, what systems are you using or what systems do you need to consider where there's already a native and where do you need to consider where, no, there's not a good native, there could be another option for you. Absolutely.
Awesome. Got time for maybe one more question if we got one? Got it? Here we go. Uno más.
Hey Wayne, thanks for the talk. I really enjoyed it. So we know that integrations are pivotal for a CRM and building that infrastructure and tech stack. What is one of the biggest pitfalls that you find in all integrations, and how do you solve for that issue?
Yeah, that's a good question, Thomas. I think by and large, I can probably give you thousands of things, but I'll give you the number one thing, which is ignoring data quality. Far too often with data management and integrations, customers think that integration by itself will just solve data quality problems and they'll just go away and think that, oh, let me just connect all these things, connect even the people, and I'll snap my fingers and I won't have data quality problems. No, you need to be diligent and thoughtful and purposeful about how you're treating data quality. Now, luckily, there's tools out there. I'll give a little plug for Vertify, where that was a core tenet of our platform, was to think about that first. Making data actionable through data quality. I can tell you from a real life situation, there's nothing worse than a salesperson that's working in the CRM that's like, hey, I was looking for this lead and it never came through. I talked to the person, they filled out a marketing form, where is it, right? But guess what? It was missing like the state field, or the phone number wasn't formatted properly. I can't tell you how many deals are lost because of things like that that are taken for granted from a data quality standpoint. And so if you don't address those processes and find technology that can help you alleviate that and not have to worry about it manually, that results to lost revenue. So data quality by far is the biggest pain point and the biggest thing that people need to take care of that plays a large role in thinking about integrations.
Awesome, Wayne. Let's give Wayne from Vertify a big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks so much.
Thank you, everybody.
Amazing
Appreciate
job.
it.